What's going on YouTube? Welcome to WestysAngling. You're joining me and my dad today for a 24-hour session targeting the cats at Hillside Fishery just outside of Burnley, isn't it, Dad?
Yes, it is.
I've fished this fishery a couple of times, but it was years ago, and I must admit this fishery's come on leaps and bounds since I last came. Toilet facilities have been upgraded, all the trees and all the foliage has grown up around the fishery, and it looks absolutely beautiful, doesn't it, Dad?
It's a lovely fishery.
Yeah.
Not what I expected at all.
No, my dad's really chuffed with it, and my dad's very, very picky when it comes to fisheries and places where he likes to fish. He likes privacy and all the rest of it. So the pegs that we've opted for today was 7 and 8.
7 and 8, yes.
And that's because 7's my dad's lucky number. I said to my dad, it's everybody's bloody lucky number, isn't it?
And I said it's not your lucky number because you're on number 8.
Because I'm on number 8. He's as usual, he's picked the best peg and he's shafted me here in this middle swim that's got absolutely no features on it or anything like that. Anyway, like I said to you before, we're only targeting the cats today, and I'm really excited for it because it's been ages since we've been out for the cats, hasn't it, Dad?
Yeah, 12 months at least.
Yeah,
maybe longer.
My dad's not been out for a 48-hour or a 24-hour session with me for best part of the year, so he was really eager to get out and target some specimen fish. We've got ourselves pretty much set up, bivvies up and all the rest of it. I will be taking you through the setup and stuff like that, but hopefully we get a couple of cats on the bank, Dad, eh?
If we can get one each, I'll be happy.
Yeah, or even one between us, just so it's not been a completely wasted video. But you know how this specimen fishing goes, Dad?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough. It's not an easy thing to do at all.
No, it's not.
There's a lot of blanking, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can come out and you can do a 48-hour session and completely blank, and we're only on for 24. I'm not making excuses already. I'm really confident about my rigs. I'm confident about the bait that I'm using, and I'm confident with the pellets and stuff like that. So let's get into the video, eh, Dad?
Yeah.
Wow, that wind's picking up and it's really blowing into me here. That's great for the fishing, but not necessarily so good for the filming. So I'm sorry if it's a little bit muffled on the camera. Okay, so before I talk you through the baits and the rigs that we're going to be using today, let me discuss some of the tackle and equipment that I use when I'm targeting catfish. Oh, little baby robin, look. On the rod pod. Okay, so let's start by discussing the rods. Now, these are a really powerful 10-foot rod. Now, we're not casting far, so we don't need mega long rods. So these 10-foot are absolutely perfect. If you're wondering what make they are, they're a Sonic Insurgent, and they're a 3¼ test curve rod. Now, I wouldn't recommend using anything less than that for catfish. You need a really powerful rod for these absolute monster fish. Now, the size of catfish in here go from around 20 pounds right up to 85 pounds. So I'm fishing for the upper end of the scale today. I'm not fishing for small cats. If you're fishing a lake where they've only got catfish ranging from like 10 pound to 50 pound, you might be all right with your normal carp gear, maybe just increasing the strength of the line from like 15 to 20, something like that. Speaking of line, this is geared up specifically for catfish, and it's 30 pound mono. So this is 30 pound Berkeley big game, and it is like washing line, folks. There'll be no breaking that. I've got a feeling that the hook would bend out before that line broke. Really powerful stuff. Now, here at Hillside, there are quite a few snags. It's quite narrow between swims, so we're targeting fish where they can get behind lily pads, they can get into the reeds at the back, they can kite right towards somebody else's swim. So we really need powerful gear so we can hit and hold them and really bully them in. So that's why I'm using such strong gear. You need really good reels. So these are a Penn Affinity reel, and they are very, very, very powerful reels, and they're geared up for sea fishing and also for big carp and catfish like this. Very high quality reel. I got mine second hand, so like I said, Penn Affinity LTD 7000 reels. That's what we're using today. So the setup themselves for cats is very, very simple, and there's one thing that you really need to consider. One is to have a little bit of rig tubing, just because catfish do have a really sharp point on one of the fins that can sever line. Now, I'm not too worried about a catfish severing this line at 30 pounds, so I probably didn't even need rig tubing. But the reason I put rig tubing on, and I've only put about half a foot on, is to just help with the whir of this running rig up and down that. Use really light leads. I can't stress that enough. Catfish are very sensitive to resistance. So I'm using a lead here with a really big eye, so this line can slide nice and easily up and down that, and that just stops to a little tail rubber there. Yeah, and that's not gonna, that lead isn't gonna fall back over that, that's stopping that, but it's also not going to have any resistance at all, allowing the catfish to take the bait freely. So that's my simple catfish setup. Like I said, really small leads, you don't want them to feel that resistance, and you want the lead to be able to travel up and down that line freely. And also, when you've got your rods on the bite alarms, make sure that you're not fishing locked up, because they'll feel the resistance on the reel and they can drop it. You want them to be able to run quite freely, and then you tighten up, hit into the catfish really hard, set that hook, because don't forget, because you're fishing a running rig, you've not got the same prick with the hook into the fish's mouth as you have with a normal fixed lead carp setup. Okay, so you've got to lift into it, tighten your bail arm up, hammer in hard and set that hook. Catfish have bony plates in the mouths, and you really do need to hammer into that to set the hook. Okay, so like I said, really loose, so when you've got your rod on the rod rest, you want the catfish to be able to take line. So that's a little tip. So all we need to do to get fishing is tie our rigs on. So let's do that now. As you can see, they're ready for me to tie a swivel onto there. My swivel will go into that little running rubber there, and that'll be the rig tied and ready to go out. Okie dokie folks, let's talk about the rigs themselves. Obviously this is what we're tying onto our main line there. I've got a tail rubber there just to kick this braid away from the lead and the other line. And then if we look at the hooks, something that I always recommend for catfish is something like a size 5 or a size 4 straight point hook. Barbless here at Hillside. This hasn't got a barb on, but if you allow barbs at your fishery for catfish, I do recommend them. It really helps hold that hook into that bony plate. And if you can see here, I've got the hair pinned to the shank of the hook, so when the luncheon meat is on that, because that's primarily what we're going to be fishing with today, the old Morrison's pork luncheon meat, and a nice big cube of it as well. In my opinion, it's one of the best baits for catfish, and I've just put a little bit of shrink tubing on the knot of the hair there. Can you see that? And what that'll do is it'll stop the hair cutting through the meat, and then I usually top it with maybe like a quarter of a boilie or a little small wafter or something like that, just to hold that meat on and stop it flying out when you cast out. Now I'm going to be dropping the rigs in a bait boat today, so I don't need to worry about that. But yeah, they're the rigs, nice and simple. A little bit of a kicker there of shrink tubing around the hook, and when you strike into that, you're really going to hammer home. The other thing is the strength of these. So this is actually 70 pound spider wire. You need a nice strong braid for this, 35 pound upwards, and the reason being is the bony plate in the catfish's mouth is very, very abrasive. Okay, and you need something that's got really good abrasion resistance to stop your hook length being snapped or worn through. Rig tubing's come out of that tail rubber there, look. Let's slide that back in. So give ourselves enough line to work with, cut that off. I've literally just tied that on so that obviously the main line doesn't pull out, and I already had these rods set up. So I've tied one slightly longer and one slightly shorter. Now play about with this for cats. They say around 15 inches, but I haven't tied mine that long. I don't think you need them that long, but again, I'm playing about with that. So I'm going to tie this on with a very, very strong knot, this swivel. I'm eager to get these rods out. I'm already late. I had to drive back home because, can you believe it, I forgot my bivvy. Who does that? So I've had an absolute day from hell today, but still here, still fishing, trying to calm down. So there we go, really strong knot, which is important for cats. And then I'm going to leave a bit of a tail there, pull all the rig back down, pull that into the lead, and there you go. That's your catfish running rig, ready for some lunch and meat. And like I said, that tail rubber there will just kick that rig away from your lead and your main line. So I'm just going to quickly get this other rig tied on, and then we'll talk through the bait that we're using. Like I said, lunch and meat is going to be the primary hook bait, and I'm going to be fishing through the night. I'm probably not going to get much sleep because I'm going to be actively feeding. Tail rubber back over that swivel. And if you can hear my dad in the next swim plopping pellets out, that's really good for cats as well. That noise massively brings them in. That plopping noise can really create an aggressive, I don't think it's a feeding response, I think it's more a territorial aggressive response. I mean, they actually use a tool in America and Canada, the places where they fish for these big Wels catfish, and on the Ebro they use something called I think it's called a plopper or a doinker, or I don't know, it's got a silly name. And that noise actually really stimulates the cats. Right folks, so pellets, I'm going to be using my own brand of pellets. So we're going with smoky krill halibut 8mm, and we're going to put these in the bait boat. Bait boat's ready to go. Now I could cast here and I will be pinging pellets out over the top, but just to get the swim started, because like I said I am late, we're gonna get some bait out there. I've got some black magic 8mm as well. Don't be scared about getting loads of bait out, folks, when you're fishing for catfish, because one cat can clear a mountain of bait in no time. And it's the breakdown of these pellets that's really going to draw these cats in. So I'm going to put an absolute pile out there. So I've got them, and I've got some of my glazes here. I've got 3 lots. I've got really smelly stuff, porcelain crab and crayfish glaze. I've got pure krill, which is literally hydrolyzed krill, and obviously hydrolyzed pure liver there as well. So I'm going to take the lid off that, and we're going to get some of that liver in there, and that'll really stimulate cats up into a feeding response. Bit more. So I've got my meat here. If I can get it out without absolutely slicing myself up, I'm going to cut through it with the old baiting needle. Let's try and cut this fairly evenly if we can. Don't have to be perfect. Should get a good few hook baits out of this. Now I can trim these down if I need to. There we go, see them big lumps? I've done that actually really well with that baiting needle. if that's not worth a subscribe, folks, cutting this up perfectly with a baiting needle, I don't know what is. Absolute professional. I'm really not, I tell you, but I've got some good catfish fishing experience. Been doing it a good few years now. I know it's new to quite a lot of you, but there we go. So that's the hook baits for both rods. I've got 3 tins of this with me, but I'm only going to mix this up for now. So let's get 1 krill, 1 liver. Don't want to get this on my hands because this is horribly smelly stuff. So that's some krill, that's some liver, and then we're going to shake that up. You should really be using gloves here, folks, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to put the lids on. And it'll also stop this meat drying out, drying out. But I'm gonna stink of this by the end of the day. So I'm gonna put the liver on the left-hand rod and the krill on the right-hand rod. So I'm thinking having 1 rod in open water and 1 rod over here into this bay at the back, on the back reeds there. That's the plan. Now there are some good carp in here as well, but I'm really not targeting them today. Literally, look at that, folks. You can't tell me that's not a bite. Absolutely amazing. Oh my god, the smell. The smell, it's making me gag, honestly. It's that strong. Pure liquids. Gently giving them a good coat. Now, to stop these baits flying off the hook, I'm just going to trim some segments here of wafter. And I just use them as a bit of a topper. So a topper on, meat's there, got good hook clearance there, but we'll be able to strike through it anyway. And I'm absolutely covered in liver. Will you give us a lift with this bait boat, Dad? Oh god, I'm absolutely covered. So what I do with this bait boat is I'll put my lump of meat there, put my lead on this side, make sure everything's not tangled, and then I'll usually put a few more pellets over the top. That also helps stop it tangling up. I'll put some of this crab and crayfish on the pellets, and we'll drop that. Very stinky, that, folks. Going out. Let's keep a tiny bit of resistance on, Dad, not much. It's not going out far, this. Nice smooth approach there. So I'm just going to sink that line gently. That bait runner drag is nice and loose. Turn that volume down on that. It's perfect. Right, let's get this other one out. There we go. It's a little bit fiddly actually with that, to get those bait stops through. Probably a little bit big, but there we go. You just can't forget to hammer home into the fish when you get a bite. And don't be disheartened if you don't hook into the fish, because the rig can bounce off the hard bony plate, can't it, Dad? And the mouths sometimes. More often than not you'll be in, but it can happen, that. So if it does happen to you, don't be disheartened. I'm going to go back there, I reckon. What's that, about 8 foot out from that bank, 12 foot out?
12, 14 foot out.
There we go. It's a good drop, that. What do you think, folks? Should we do an all-nighter? Should we really put that effort in grinding and recast every 3 hours? New piece of lunch and meat, introduce more bait, get hyped up on coffee, and see if we can really drag them cats in. I think we'll do it. I'm not at work tomorrow, sod it. I can sleep when I get back, do you know what I mean? Might mess up my sleep pattern a little bit, but I'm really wanting to get a catfish. I've not caught a catfish in probably, God, 18 months, something like that. And I love fishing for them. One of my favourite fish to target, purely because of the sheer power. If you've never caught one before, you won't really understand it, but they're on another level. And on a little arena type fishery like this, you can see how narrow it is. It's going to be one hell of a battle. They'll have me up and down here, they'll have you in the lily pads, they'll have you in the reeds, and it'll just be an absolutely momentous fight. I've got a light set up on my other GoPro so I can get the tripod out and hopefully capture the night footage as well. So I'm sure I've just done that, tighten a little bit. Got these really slack, as I've said, so a catfish isn't going to feel any kind of resistance. I've got to get on it, tighten up that spool and that drag and hammer into the fish. Fingers crossed for me if you're watching at home. Let's get something on the bank. And you know what, I'm still going to post it even if I don't get a fish, because I'm confident in the rigs are sound, the setup's sound, and you'll be able to replicate it at home. Look, at the end of the day, it's specimen fishing. I can't catch every single time I go out, and some of it tells you that they catch every time they go is an absolute liar, or they're just incredibly lucky, because sometimes it just doesn't happen, folks. So be confident in your methods, and yeah, get yourselves out there. Let's see how my dad's getting on in his swim. So this is my dad's swim and setup, peg 7, unhooking mat, tiddler net. Dad's using his bank sticks, aren't you, Dad?
Yeah.
Wearing this like he's expecting to run any minute. It's massive, that, isn't it? That Fox receiver. This is his little bivvy setup. He's got his over wrap on, got his little brew making station. My dad's very OCD, so everything's laid out absolutely perfectly. You could do with covering that meat up, Dad, because it might dry out, that. Do you want a bait tub, and do you want to glug it with some of this stuff?
I can glug it,
You just don't want to get your hands messed up, do you?
no.
You're such a soft ass. I was thinking of a more offensive thing and I thought I can't really say it. The last time I came, Dad, I could hear catfish slapping all night.
Yeah.
I remember it, yeah. So that up to the top and slapping with the tails on the top of the water. So my dad's got a rig just off them lily pads, Dad. Show us.
Right there.
That's where he's got a rig. And that noise, as I've said, can really stimulate the cats. I'll be pinging some pellets out as well into my little divot. You can see my little divot there. I'm really confident for an afternoon bite, Dad, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
The conditions, overcast, mild, good ripple on. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Yeah, I'm really confident for an afternoon bite, yeah. I think they do come out in the day at Hillside quite often.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Yeah.
So my dad's got the, are they from Aldi? Lidl spicy sausage.
Well, nice and spicy.
You think I'm going to put my mouth around that? No, you've had your grubby mouth around it. Have one of these fresh ones here. Mm.
Oh,
Oh, I like them.
Alright, yeah.
I'm having one. What's better than this, folks, honestly? Rods are out, bibby's set up, everything's neat, everything's cosy, and I'm chilling with a cup of coffee waiting for a bite. Can't beat it, can you? Well, you can. You could have a £60 catfish run, that'd definitely beat it, but for now I'm happy with my coffee. Absolutely tons of blowing across there in peg 6. They've been at it all day, haven't they, Dad? It'll be carp, that. It'll be carp, yeah. We're not after them, are we, Dad?
No.
They're mud pigs. We want the big slimy suckers today, don't we?
Yeah.
Are you putting that kettle on again, Dad?
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to sleep tonight. I'll probably keep feeding. I'll ping some more pellets out in a minute. Probably give it another hour and then I'll do a recast. Right, these rigs have been in a couple of hours. Let's ping some more of these smelly pellets over the top. Try not to drop them all up the floor. Perfect, that. Right on the spot. Oh, that one were a bit too aggressive, that one. Well, I think the cats are definitely starting to move around now, which is a great sign. So, in the meantime, what I think I'm going to do is cook up some of these skewers that I've got for me and my dad. Like little kebab things, so I'll cook them up. And fingers crossed, I get rudely interrupted by a catfish. Help yourself, Dad.
Definitely the fish just chopped in that hollow of yours. Right,
Yeah.
Right up tight.
I didn't see it. Careful, they'll be up. Did tell you. He stuffed it straight in his gob. Could do with a bigger catapult for this kind of thing. Don't think Preston Innovations have made this for catfish, have they? Well, my dad's just had another few bleeps, but not enough to hit into. So I think I'm going to have a recast. That's my plan anyway. I'm going to start with a left hand rod, and I'm going to come a little bit further away from the island, I think. Absolutely brilliant for keeping the meat on this rig. Look at that, perfect still. Let's see how it's sitting in the water in the margin. Absolutely perfectly critically balanced. Look at that, folks. On the bottom, just wafting around with half a pop up on. That's mint. So there's nothing wrong with that. You wouldn't have thought that half a pop up would do anything to that big chunk of meat in terms of buoyancy, but clearly it does. Well, that's the rigs back out, folks. Am I feeling confident for a bite? I'm not sure. We have had a little bit of movement. We have had a few bleeps, but nothing notable. Thought it might have been a catfish playing with my rig before, but with the meat still being on, I've got a feeling that it might have been more of a really slow catfish liner. So that's why I've come a little bit closer towards me this time. It's 5:30 in the morning. It's a really misty morning today. Very, very uneventful night. Just had a couple of hours sleep, but yeah, really, really quiet. But like I said, that's the way it goes. I think we're on for a blank, but who knows? The rods could tear off at any time. I'm pretty sure these will still be fishing, so I'm not going to bother checking the baits. I might check them one last time in an hour or so, or 2 hours after breakfast or whatever. But yeah, we'll keep you updated if anything happens. Just stuck the kettle on for a morning coffee. I've already started to get my bivvy and stuff packed away. I'm going to start slowly packing up, and then we'll probably shoot off about 10 o'clock-ish, something like that. But yeah, really tough session. Really, really tough. Quite demoralising session actually, because kept it simple. I stayed up through the night baiting, kept them pellets going in, and it's not worked out for us. So Bailiff's just been round, hasn't he, Dan, and he's given us some advice. What has he said?
Yeah, so he said basically you don't want any weight, ledger or whatever on your line. He said free lined to a cube of luncheon meat, inch and a quarter cubed. Free line it out, no bobbins. Just have your line going through your bait rollers.
Through your alarms?
Through the alarms to your bait roller. That way the cats don't feel any resistance at all. I think what's been happening, the single beeps that we've been getting are the cats picking up the bait,
yeah,
feeling some resistance and dropping it straight away.
The very, very shy cats in here apparently.
Yeah, he says
so
they're cagey.
You need to really, I mean, we're fishing very, very light leads, running rigs, that kind of thing, so we know how to fish for cats, but this is like taking it to a whole nother level of free lining.
Yeah. And what he said does make sense.
Yeah, of course it does.
About the single beeps that we've been getting.
Yeah, and you know what? You need to listen to these people, don't you, Dad? Because you know what they're on about.
Yeah.
There's no point thinking, oh, you know everything.
Different people fishing.
Yeah.
And he said the people that fish like that catch. It's as simple as that.
Look at all these fry margin.
Oh yeah, there was a load over there.
So I think if we come again, that's what we need to be doing, free lining.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think if I go for the cats in future, that's what I'm going to do as well, free line the luncheon meat. I think that'll probably give us a better success. Now that's not saying that we would have caught if we'd have done it that way or whatever, but we might have stood a slightly better chance. It's just really refining it down, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So
I just wish
it'd have been round yesterday.
Yeah, he'd been round yesterday and spoke to us when we were first setting up. I would have definitely missed it that way.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with these rigs. I've caught cats. I've caught probably 5-6 cats on these rigs, and
Oh, yeah.
there's nothing wrong with them, but sometimes when the cats are really wary, like apparently they are in here, they probably get caught a lot. You just need to refine it down even further and just remove the lead. So yeah, that's a little bit of advice from the bailiff. Look, at the end of the day, folks, that's fishing. And when it comes to fishing, you're always learning, and I know I am, and I'm not too big and I'm not too stubborn to know when I should take advice. And that is absolutely brilliant advice off the bailiff, and that's advice that I'm passing on to you guys if you're wanting to go out and try for your first catfish. Now, if you're fishing far out, then you are going to have to put a 1 ounce lead on, a really light lead, just to help you get the bait out. I will be returning to Hillside again. It has not defeated me, but I think next time, I don't even think I'm going to bring my bivvy. I'll just bring my Pentalite shelter, I'll bring my reclinable chair, and just minimal tackle. I'll do 24 hours and I'll literally just do an all-nighter. I'll bring enough stuff to, you know, make myself brews and stuff like that, and bait. But other than that, just fish it really simply like this, free lined, and we'll get some cats on the bank, I think. And we'll learn from our mistakes, folks, and we'll grow. That's what fishing's all about. Well, I've got about probably an hour left. I've swapped them both onto free lining. It's gone fairly overcast, so we've always a chance. Bit of WestysAngling good luck, I think. Give the lucky hat a rub. Otherwise, folks, if we don't catch anything, I just want to say thanks very much for watching. I'm sorry we've not caught anything in this video, and I'll see you in the next WestysAngling.